The Brothers Grimm's Jacob and Wilhelm were born in the early 1780s, 3 years after the last execution of a witch in Europe, and were single-handedly two of the most important gentlemen when it comes to children's folklore and fairy tales. They became academics and narrators of German culture, as what they did in 1812 during the Napoleonic Wars. While there was this immense shortage of paper, these two men went about the countryside and collected stories that eventually became known as the Kinder- und Hausmärchen, the children's folklore stories, something like that. They were able to capture and narrate Snow White, Rumpelstiltskin, Hansel and Gretel, Red Riding Hood, the Six Swans, the Seven Ravens, and of course, dear to my heart, Sleeping Beauty. And these stories is what we love and we look at still to this day, especially with the influence of Disney creating these into iconic films starting in the early 1950s, especially with Sleeping Beauty, as, you know, they used Tchaikovsky's music to completely narrate and capture that film. The importance of these stories are not just children's stories. Like, they were part of what's known as German culture. And of course, not just German culture, they're also French origins. Like, as you see in Snow White. No, not Snow White. Cinderella. We can also see that in, actually, the Ever After film, which is a great Drew Barrymore movie. And something that we did as children. Apparently we made this into a play. Long story short, we were children. We were like 6. The importance of these stories became so iconic to German culture that even the Third Reich in Germany described that it was necessary for every household to have a copy of this book during World War II as a part of German culture and German power. Now, Tolkien even further studied the stories to illuminate that these were culturally important for authors and narrators to understand the Jungian and the Freudian traits of these stories. And honestly, they're not children's stories. They're full of violence, they're entertaining, and they are beautiful. In Cinderella, although we know she lives happily ever after, she gets married to the prince, even though he's so idiotic to not recognize her after spending a whole evening with her and dancing with her. He has to go about the countryside and get every woman to test on a shoe. So once the prince finally finds Cinderella and gets her to try on this shoe, the stepmother and the two sisters were dismayed and turned white with rage because Cinderella fit the only glass slipper. Although in French stories it was a fur slipper, and some German stories as well. But he took Cinderella on his horse and rode off with her. And as they rode past the hazel tree, the two doves cried, "Prithee look back, prithee look back, no blood's on the track." No blood's on the track was because the two sisters, the stepsisters, had cut off part of their foot in order to fit into the shoe. The shoe's not too small, you carry the true bride home to your hall. And when they had said, they both came flying down and settled on Cinderella's shoulders, one on the right and one on the left, and they remained perched there. When the wedding was going to take place, the two false sisters came and wanted to curry favor with her and take part in her good fortune. As the bridal party was going to the church, the elder was on the right and the younger on the left. and the doves picked out each and one of their eyes. Afterwards, when they were coming out of the church, because this meant that the stepsisters were able to sit through a whole church wedding with an eye removed from a bird, and were fine with it. The elder was on the left, and the younger on the right, and the doves picked out each other eye from them. And so for their wickedness and falseness, they were punished with the blindness for the rest of their days. Grimms. Great storytellers. It's what everyone needs to remember in these books, is that there's a lot to these stories, and we'll be further discussing this on this channel. That being said, to these German folklore stories, raise a beer, and of course you can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. You can also check out my Patreon page. And if you want to look at me some more and discuss some Star Wars material, you can follow me on Legends Library on the Coffee with Kenobi network. That being said, let's enjoy a beer, cuddle a cat wherever they are, they want dinner, and let's read some more books.